because I want to follow up on a story that we picked up on in April of this year. And the reason we were looking at Pakistani affairs is because the country had seen months and months of turmoil as supporters of the former Prime Minister, Imran Khan, clashed with police across the country. Mr. Khan had been ousted from government following a no-confidence vote in him in November 2022. Now, his supporters claimed that that was a US-backed plot. The Pakistani government says it was a legitimate vote. Since then, Pakistani police have filed terrorism charges against Mr. Khan and some of his supporters. The former international cricketer denies the charges against him and say that they are politically motivated. Shortly after we did that interview in April, things became even more tumultuous. The former Pakistani Prime Minister was arrested. He was on his way to court. He ends up being arrested. We saw pictures that were then spread around the world of him being surrounded by police, beaten and bundled into the back of a van. They were shocking images. Since then, the Pakistani government has restricted Mr. Khan's movement and travel, along with that of his wife and hundreds of his political aides. I'm pleased to say that Imran Khan joins me now live from Lahore, I think. Mr. Khan, is that correct?
That's right, Sangeeta. I'm sitting in Lahore.
The pictures that we saw, as I say, were sent around the world. They created deep shock in Pakistani communities in the diaspora. Just describe to us how that arrest came about and what it felt like to be in the middle of it all.
Well, Sangeeta, it was meant to create shock, and it was meant to provoke my followers to demonstrate, go out in the streets, because I was on bail. There was no reason I should have been arrested. I was sitting in the precincts of the Islamabad High Court, about to appear in the court, and I was abducted, and it wasn't the police. It was basically a commando action. And I guess I should be flattered that at the age of 70, they needed commandos to pick me up. I mean, police could have sufficed. I wasn't going to resist arrest. But it wasn't an arrest. They abducted me from there. And later on, and let me say, abducted like I was some sort of a terrorist. I mean, the way they came and broke the windows, beat up the staff, beat up the people who were guarding me, beat up the lawyers. And then the way they took me in this jeep, so it was going to provoke a reaction. And there was a reaction because the Supreme Court later ruled that this was unlawful what they had done. But the reaction, there was a reason why the government and the establishment wanted the reaction, because they used that to crack down on my party. And 10,000 people in 10,000 members of my party within 48 hours were jailed. And all my senior leadership was jailed. And this crackdown, they justified because there were these demonstrations. And in the demonstrations, there were about 4 buildings that were set on fire. And they based this on the arson. This crackdown. So we've had the most unprecedented crackdown in the history of our country. It's never happened like this before.
Mr. Khan, the Pakistani government, of course, and the ruling party take a very different view of what happened. They have filed 160 criminal charges against you that range everywhere from corruption all the way up to terrorism charges. The Interior Minister, Rana Sanullah, accused you of personally planning the attacks on military installations in the past, and they say that you are somebody who is attempting to destabilize democracy in Pakistan. What would you say to that?
Well, firstly, there were already 140 cases on me before this incident. So 140 cases of 40 or 50 of terrorism and blasphemy and 2 of corruption and so on. I mean, sedition, treachery against the government and so on. So this only triggered more cases. While I was in jail, I was completely cut off from everyone. Since then, I've had 30 more cases on, which again include terrorism and so on. But my point is that surely there should have been an independent investigation of what happened after I went to jail. Surely this arson should have been investigated independently. Bear in mind that there were 25 non-violent people protesting peacefully were shot dead. There's no mention of 25 members of my party shot dead, and about 50 having bullet wounds. Some have, two have lost their legs. One is, paralyzed. So there's no mention about what happened, the crackdown that took place. So there's no independent investigation.
Understood.
We claim that this arson was deliberately done to actually justify this crackdown. We believe that this was exactly what happened when Adolf Hitler used in 1933 the arson in the German parliament, in the Berlin parliament. He used that to crack down on the communists and just finished off all opposition.
I understand your point.
What's happening here?
I understand your point, which is that you're accusing the Pakistani government or the Pakistani ruling party of trumping up claims against you and inciting violence in order that they can find a reason to arrest you. On the 7th of June, Al Jazeera reported that you had been formally named in connection with the killing of a lawyer who had accused you of high treason. What would your reaction to that be?
Look, this was one of the cases which subsequently was thrown on me. A lawyer out of 150 cases, now it's 170 cases, then 150. One case was of a lawyer having a sedition case against him. It was so insignificant, that case, that it doesn't even register on my radar. Out of 150 cases, why would I worry about an additional case? So this lawyer gets assassinated. The wife says it's a family feud. The son initially claimed it was a family feud. Then he was kept by the authorities for 12 hours, and then he changed it to blaming me for the murder. Obviously, I'm going to contest it. It's a joke. But let me just say one thing. Look, why is the government doing this? So let the listeners understand what is going on in Pakistan.
Well, I was going to ask you about this because when your arrest was reported and we saw those images around the world, many people were commenting, both inside and outside Pakistan, saying that the reason this was happening is because you had colluded with the Pakistani army to gain power, and when you fell out of favour with them, they essentially kicked you out. And they're going to ensure that you no longer have a part to play in Pakistani politics.
Well, partly correct, because in 2018, when we won the elections, we did not collude with the Pakistan army. We won the election, but half of it is right that the army did not oppose us. So if at that time, if the army had opposed, it is arguable that they are so powerful that we might not have won the election. But subsequently, since I've been ousted from power, the army or the military establishment is siding with the government parties. There are 12 of them. Now, in the 37 by-elections since then, since me being out of power, my party has swept 30 of them. Now, all opinion polls say that the rating of my party is 70-80% above, which is why the government is petrified of elections. They violated the Supreme Court verdict, which was supposed to hold elections on the 14th of May. They refused because everyone knows that whenever there are elections, my party will win. So instead, what they're doing is trying to ban the party. So because they can't play the match, they want a technical knockout. And hence, all these 170 cases. Remember, I am known in this country for 50 years. I never had one criminal case against me. How come there are 170 in the last few months? So no one believes what's going on. And
well, what many commentators will say, Mr. Khan, is that the reason you have this long string of allegations and criminal charges brought against you is because Pakistan has not been a functioning democracy for very, very many years now. And it is essentially a country that is run by the army. And it's interesting hearing you say that when you won power, the army didn't oppose you. In other words, they allowed you into government, and now they are disallowing you from government. That's the greater problem here, isn't it? That democracy just simply isn't thriving in Pakistan. What's the solution to that?
Well, you're right in a way. I mean, half history we've been ruled by a 70-year history.